My son banned me from Christmas dinner. By New Year's, his mortgage was gone. I'd brought the turkey anyway. Habit, I guess. 28 years of doing the bird the way Elena liked it. Sage and orange peel under the skin, butter worked into the breast with my fingers until my hands smelled like holidays. Michael's leather sofa breathed when I sat, the kind that hisses softly when you sink in. Isabella's vanilla candle burned on the marble coffee table I helped to pick out last spring. Their 12-foot tree glittered like a department store display. Everything in that room had a price tag I knew by heart. "Dad?" Michael's wedding ring flashed as he rubbed his palms together. "You won't be welcome here for Christmas." I thought I'd misheard. "What?" "Isabella's parents are coming," he said to the coffee table. "They have traditions. It's easier if you don't—" "Don't what?" My voice stayed even. "Don't remind them who paid for the traditions?" He flinched. Through the archway, I noticed the industrial KitchenAid mixer on the counter. Isabella's 3-week baking phase. $2,000 of my dollars for a machine that held dust like a trophy. "It's just for this year," he tried. "We'll do something the weekend after." Weekend after, like Christmas could be rescheduled. I stood. My knees complained. "Tell Isabella's parents something for me." He finally looked up. "What?" "Feliz Navidad." I set the turkey on the counter for them. "And congratulations on the new mortgage servicer." He frowned. "What?" "Nothing." I picked up my coat and stepped into the December air. The cold bit my cheeks. Behind me, the door clicked shut, that tasteful, soft, close sound rich people like. In the truck, I let my hands warm on the steering wheel and watched white lights tremble along the eaves of houses I'd roofed in summer to help with their down payment. Elena would have told me to breathe. She used to stand at the sink on Christmas morning humming the same tune she hummed at our wedding. I sat with the ghost of that sound until the anger settled into decision. I called Miguel first. He answered on the second ring. "Cedar Ridge Credit," he said. "Miguel speaking." "It's Robert." A pause. "You okay, my friend? I need 2 favors and a clean paper trail." He exhaled in a way that meant he'd already guessed. "The Winters account?" "Yes. Kill the silent auto pay from Winter Harbor Trust to Benderton Mortgage effective immediately." "You sure?" "I'm sure." Miguel had set it up 3 years ago, when Michael's business bled more cash than pride would allow him to admit. Every month, my trust quietly paid the first mortgage, the property taxes when they ran late, and the insurance I'd insisted they carry after the kitchen remodel. Michael believed Benderton Mortgage loved him. Benderton loved me. "And the second favor?" Miguel asked. "Find me the assignment desk for their loan. If Benderton's looking to move a performing note before year-end, I want first crack. I'll park it in a special purpose LLC by the 29th. "It's Christmas week," Miguel said, "so move quickly." I checked my mirrors. The neighborhood looked too calm for how my chest felt. "And send me a full payment history for my records." "You got it." "Robert, you okay?" "Never better." I hung up and dialed Karina next. My attorney answers late because she's built like a bow, always drawn, always ready. "Karina, I need you to pull the promissory note Michael signed in 2019, I said. "The one for the down payment bridge. Second position, deed of trust, 20%, due on demand with acceleration if the borrower transfers any interest or endangers the security," she recited. "I keep your sins alphabetized. Check the county recorder, see if any transfers hit title in the past 6 months." She hesitated. Why? Because my son just told me I'm not welcome for Christmas, and I want to know who told him he could say it. Karina whistled softly. Give me an hour. While I waited, I drove without destination. The city wore December like an expensive coat. Garlands on lampposts, storefront windows painted with snow that hadn't fallen here in years. Elena would have filled the passenger seat with parcels wrapped in the Sunday comics because she liked the look. I parked outside the coffee shop where we used to split a cinnamon roll and watch strangers smile at each other like they had all the time in the world. Karina called back in 40 minutes. You're not going to like this, she said. Try me. There's a quitclaim recorded November 3rd. Your son and his wife conveyed a 25% interest to Isabella's parents, Sergio and Pilar Alvarez, for estate planning and interfamily support. No consideration listed. I said nothing. Your deed of trust required written consent before any transfer, she added. They didn't seek it. That's an acceleration event. Also, county shows second-half property taxes unpaid as of December 5th. How much? $4,600. I'll pay them today, I said, then stopped myself. No, let it sit. Robert, she said carefully, if the first mortgage sees delinquent taxes, they have grounds to advance and tack it to principal or move toward default. That escalates quickly. I know. I watched a young couple wrestle a tree into their trunk and laugh when it didn't fit. Draft the demand letter for the second. Give them 10 days to cure the transfer breach or I accelerate. And prepare a notice of interest to Cloud Title in case they try anything else. You're calling the note? Not yet. I'm letting gravity work. I went home. Elena's ornaments waited in a plastic bin by the armchair I couldn't sell because it still held the shape of her. I took out the hand-painted dove she'd bought the year Michael was born and turned it over in my palm. She'd written our names on the back in blue Sharpie that had faded to ghost letters. I set it on the coffee table and stared until the phone buzzed. Miguel again. You move fast, he said. Benderton's servicing it for Pioneer Mutual. Good news is, Pioneer's unloading a batch of loans on the 30th to clear their balance sheet. Bad news is, you'll need a vehicle and liquidity by the 29th and a purchase and sale agreement signed. Send me the tape. You understand, if you buy the note, you're the bank. I've been everybody's bank for 20 years, I said. It's time I used a ledger. I called Dave next. Vietnam vet, accountant, friend, and the only person who'd told me to put my generosity on paper back when Elena scolded me for bringing contracts to family dinners. He answered with the same gravel-cracked yellow he'd used since 1978. I need an LLC by morning, I said. Name it North Cedar Holdings. I'll wire capital this afternoon. You buying dirt or paper? Paper that covers the dirt. Dave grunted his approval. Operating agreement? Single member, me. Voting control 100%. Successor, manager Karina if I get hit by a bus. Articles in 2 hours, he said, and hung up. By dinner, I had a draft PSA from Pioneer, an entity name, an escrow officer who owed me a favor, and a folder on my desktop labeled Winter Evidence. Inside, I saved PDFs of every text where Isabella had asked for little extras. The custom drapes, the crown molding, the remodel I'd paid cash for when Michael's credit looked like Swiss cheese. I screenshotted my monthly trust ledger. I printed the note Michael had signed for the down payment and highlighted the clause he had laughed at back then. Borrower shall not transfer any interest in the property without lender's prior written consent. Violation constitutes default at lender's option. And remembered how Elena had squeezed my knee under the table when he rolled his eyes. "He's proud," she'd whispered. "Let him be." Pride eats help like a starving man. It chews and never swallows. On December 23rd, I drove to Michael's to drop off a gift for Lucia, my granddaughter. Isabella opened the door and filled it with perfume. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "You shouldn't have," she said, taking the wrapped box the way you pick up after a dog. "It's for Lucia," I said. "Wooden train set like the one Michael had when he was 4. "We're going with Montessori gifts this year," she said. "No screens, no noise, no—" "It's wood," I said. "It's quiet." She leaned against the door. I could see past her shoulder into a living room arranged for photographs rather than life. Sergio sat in my recliner, feet on my ottoman, explaining something to Michael with his hands. Pilar hovered by the tree, rearranging ornaments I'd bought, making sure the light found her rings. "Traditions, Robert," she said, tasting my name. "You understand." I did. I'd met men like Sergio when I built the office park on Martin Street. Smiles like knives. They cut while they compliment. I had the good sense to nod and leave before my temper did the talking. Christmas Eve came without a plan for Christmas Day. Miguel texted late that night. "Auto pay canceled. Pioneer approved your bid contingent on docs. Escrow can record assignment 12:30 if wires hit 12:29. He added a thumbs up I could feel through the screen. I typed thank you and turned off the phone. That night, I took Elena's box of ornaments and drove to the cemetery. I told the stone everything. The turkey, the quitclaim, the way Michael had stared at the table as if he could find courage in the veining of marble. "You were the one who believed we could love our way out of anything," I said. "I need permission to do something uglier." The wind answered by lifting a plastic wreath and setting it down again, the way a mother sets down a sleeping child. I stood there until I couldn't feel my face. On the way home, I bought gas and stared at my reflection in the convenience store window. A man of 65 with a face like an old map, routes to everywhere he'd ever been and a few places he swore he'd never return. Christmas morning arrived with a message from Michael. "We'll call later." It was noon before later came. They sounded busy. I told them to give Lucia my love. I did not ask what she'd thought of the train because I knew the box was probably in the mudroom, unopened, next to the boots Sergio had scuffed with the smell of imported leather. December 26th, Karina forwarded me a scan. A deed Isabel Ali's parents had prepared but not yet recorded, conveying their 25% interest back to Isabella and Michael for no consideration, with the notary acknowledgement dated for December 31st. "Looks like they planned a little dance on paper," she said. "Move the shells around, then move them back, like we'd never notice." "Good," I said. "Let them sign it." "Robert." "It'll make my argument cleaner," I said. "Pattern of transfers without consent." At 2 in the afternoon, Lucia called from Isabella's phone. "Grandpa?" Her voice was small, the way kids sound when they've discovered adults lie. "Mama says we don't need you to come in anymore. Grandpa Sergio says he's our real family now because he brings the best presents." My throat closed. I made my voice steady for her. "Do you know what the best present I ever got was?" "What?" "You. The day you were born." She giggled. "That's not a present, silly." "It is to me." Isabella's voice cut in then, sweet as poison. Lucia, honey, go show Abuela your new doll. Then to me, lower. Please stop calling during family time. You called me, I said, but the line had already gone dead. December 27th. I signed the purchase and sale agreement with Pioneer. Dave sent the operating agreement at 8 a.m. I signed it and wired the funds at 10. Escrow confirmed receipt at 11. By noon, I held an email that said a lot in a little assignment of deed of trust to North Cedar Holdings, LLC to record 12/30, allonges attached. Karina filed our notice of interest and sent the 10-day demand. I told her to have a process server deliver it on New Year's Eve, during whatever party the Alvarezes planned. I wanted witnesses. She didn't ask why. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a legal pad and wrote out the rules I should have enforced years ago. They were simple enough to fit on one page. If you want help, you ask like a man, not a prince. If you accept help, you don't pretend it was yours all along. If you choose people who use you, you don't ask me to bless the choice. You can always come home if you come home honest. On December 28th, Miguel texted a screenshot from Michael's mortgage portal. The loan status said, "Pending transfer to new servicer. Please contact your new servicer after 12:30. Below it, a message. Do not send payments to Pioneer after 12:30. Tomorrow, we wire to the custodial account," Miguel said when I called. "By the 30th at 10 a.m., you'll be the guy they call when the roof leaks." "Good," I said. "I own a ladder." December 29th. I met with Karina in her office that smelled like warm paper and victory. She slid a stack of documents across the table. "Assignment, recorded copy queued for the morning," she said. "Notice of default on the 2nd, ready to serve. Here's the property tax delinquency notice in case you want to waive it. And this," she tapped a thinner envelope, "is the letter you asked me to draft in Elena's voice." I stared at it. "I didn't ask for that." "You did last year and tore it up," she said. "I made another, for when you're tempted to hurt people so they'll know you can." I carried the envelope home and put it with the ornaments. December 30th at 10:07 a.m., the assignment of deed of trust recorded in the county records. I knew because Karina texted me a screenshot of the recorder's stamp. At 10:12 a.m., the servicing transfer letter went out. Your mortgage loan, originally made by Pioneer Mutual, has been assigned to North Cedar Holdings, LLC. It included an address, mine, care of Dave's office. At noon, Isabella called. "What is this?" she demanded. "Our mortgage says we have a new servicer. Is this you?" "Congratulations," I said. "You're doing business with family again." "You can't do that," she said. That's legal?" I offered. "Yes." She huffed something that might have been a curse. "Sergio will speak to you." "I look forward to it." He called 5 minutes later. His voice carried that smooth confidence men buy with other people's money. "You think because you have some paperwork you can push us around?" he said without preamble. "We are not intimidated." "You're confused," I said. "I'm not pushing you around. I'm pushing a pencil. The pencil says you transferred a quarter of my collateral without consent. The pencil says you're late on taxes. The pencil says my note allows me to accelerate. The pencil doesn't shout, it adds. You wouldn't," he said, the first slip in his voice. "Try me." He switched to charm so fast I heard the gear teeth grind. "Robert, we're family. We can work this out. We can. New Year's Eve, 4 o'clock. Title office on Maple. Bring your daughter, bring your wife. Leave your lawyers at home. We'll discuss terms. Terms? Yes, the ones in the document your son signed in 2019, the one he didn't read. He started to object again. I hung up. I dressed that morning the way my father had dressed for important work. Shirt pressed, boots clean, face shaved smooth enough to cut the wind. In my briefcase I put the assignment, the note, the tax delinquency, the quitclaim copy, and the letter Karina had written in a hand that looked enough like Elena's to make my chest hurt. The title office on Maple smelled like carpet cleaner and winter coats. A plastic tree blinked in the corner. Denise at the front desk raised her eyebrows when I told her who was coming. "Want me to lock the door when you're done?" she asked. "If I'm not out by 5, I said, "call Karina." They were late, of course. Powerful people are never on time. They make time bend toward them. Isabella came first in a coat you could sell and retire. Michael followed, cheeks flushed, eyes darting. Sergio and Pilar entered last and filled the room with perfume and entitlement. "What is this?" Isabella demanded before she sat. I slid the assignment across the table. "By this morning's recording, your first mortgage is now owed to North Cedar Holdings. That is me. The second has always been owed to Winter Harbor Trust. Also me. That means together, I am the majority of your problem." Sergio glanced at the paper and smirked. "You bought our mortgage to extort your way into Christmas dinner?" "No," I said. "I bought your mortgage because I don't like strangers rearranging my collateral without asking." I pushed the photocopy of the quitclaim across. November 3rd. Then the prepared deed dated December 31st. You were going to move it back while pretending nothing happened. That's not how grown-ups handle mistakes. Michael stared at the documents without blinking. "Is this legal?" he asked finally. "It's exactly legal," I said. "More legal than your transfer." Isabella's mouth tightened. "We didn't transfer for money. It was for estate planning." "To keep wealth inside the family," Pilar added. "You mean your family," I said. "Good plan. Unfortunately, the note says you don't get to make it without my consent." Michael swallowed. "What do you want?" I set 2 envelopes on the table. Door A, Door B. Sergio's nostrils flared. "What is this, a game show? Door A," I said, tapping the thicker envelope, "is a loan modification and forbearance agreement. You agree in writing that you violated the transfer clause. You rescind all transfers and record the rescission. You remove Sergio and Pilar from title, from the house, and from your budget. You and Isabella sign a counseling commitment. 3 sessions with a financial counselor and 3 with a family therapist. You acknowledge that Winter Harbor Trust paid your first mortgage for 36 months, and you write a letter to Lucia explaining what gratitude looks like in a language an 8-year-old can read. You make your payments to me on time. If you do all that, I reduce your interest rate by 2 points for a year. I waive acceleration on the second. I pay the back taxes and tack them to principal. You keep your house. On Christmas next year, I'll come when invited." "And Door B?" Isabella asked, chin lifted. "Door B," I said, tapping the thinner envelope. "His notice of acceleration and demand on both notes, recorded today. I file a notice of default in 7 days. I foreclose on the second, then I foreclose on the first. I buy your house from myself and move in the week after Valentine's Day. You can make this difficult with lawyers if you want, but you'll lose. Either way, by New Year's, your mortgage is gone." Michael looked from one envelope to the other like he could conjure a third. "You'd ruin us over Christmas?" "This isn't about Christmas," I said. "It's about respect." Sergio laughed. "Respect? You're weaponizing money because your feelings are hurt." I slid the payment history across the table. 36 lines with my trust's name next to mortgage payment. 36 months of quiet. Then the remodel invoice I'd paid, the drapes, the private school deposit, the crown molding, the KitchenAid mixer. "You told me I wasn't welcome in the house I built for you," I said softly. "You told me my presence embarrassed your traditions. You handed a quarter of my collateral to these two without asking. You didn't just hurt feelings, you endangered an asset. That makes this business." Michael's voice was small. "I didn't know about the transfer." I believed him. He'd always been conflict avoidant. If Isabella wanted a thing and Pilar nodded and Sergio smiled, he'd sign. "Then you can start knowing things today," I said. Isabella pushed back her chair and stood. "We're not signing anything without counsel." "Of course," I said. "Door A is good until 5 p.m. tomorrow. Door B goes out at 4 p.m. tomorrow if I don't have signatures. You can have your counsel read. The documents say what I just said." Pilar touched Isabella's wrist and murmured in Spanish. Sergio leaned in toward Michael. "This is bluff," he said, loud enough for me to hear. "He won't do it. He'll beg to be let back in. Old men don't want to die alone." I took the thinner envelope and slid it back into my briefcase. "Karina," I said, "file door B at 4:01 tomorrow if you don't hear from me." Karina wasn't in the room, but I'd told Michael since he was 10 that words you say in public count more. The habit returned like a reflex. We left it there. On my way home, Miguel called. "You're trending on someone's group text," he said. "Michael's asking what happens if the servicer calls the loan due. Tell him to ask the servicer. You know, if they sign door A, it's a decent deal for them." "It's the last decent deal I'll offer," I said. That night, I couldn't sleep. I took Elena's envelope and opened it. Karina had been kind. The letter said what Elena would have said if she'd had the stomach for my kind of work. "Don't win just to prove you can," she wrote. "Win something worth living with." December 31st, at noon, a process server handed Isabella the demand letter on the 2nd and the tax delinquency notice while she stood in her driveway posing for pictures in a sequined dress. At 3, Sergio called to taunt. "Your little papers won't change who sits at our table tonight," he said. "You're right," I said. "Papers don't change people. Consequences do." At 4, the title office closed. At 4:05, my phone buzzed. A photo from Karina. 2 signatures, Isabella's and Michael's, on door A. Underneath, 3 initials where the counseling commitment lived. A 4th signature, mine, already present. "Happy New Year," Karina texted. I put the phone down and breathed for the first time in a week. The anger drained out the way winter light drains from the street at 5 p.m., not all at once but steadily until you realize it's night. At 6, Michael called. "Dad," he said, voice hoarse. "I'm sorry." I waited. "I didn't know about the quitclaim," he said. "I signed what Isabella put in front of me because Sergio told me it was just, family planning. He said it would protect us from taxes." "Sergio protects Sergio," I said. "I know that now." His voice broke on the now. "Lucia asked if you hate us." "I don't know how to hate you," I said, and it was true. We were quiet a long moment. "I signed the counseling thing," he said. "Isabella says she'll do the sessions, but she doesn't think we need them." "You need them," I said. "You need to remember how to say no." New Year's Eve slid toward midnight while I ate soup and listened to the neighborhood set off illegal fireworks. Somewhere, a dog barked the way a dog barks at thunder, bravely and without effect. January 1st, my email dinged at 8 a.m. Door A had recorded. The rescission deed that wiped out the quitclaim recorded right behind it. The tax payment cleared my account at 9. At 9:30, Denise from the title office called to say Pilar had left a message for me. "She says you've humiliated her publicly," Denise said, almost giggling. "She humiliated herself by standing on my rug," I said. "Tell her to buy her own." At noon, Lucia called. "Grandpa," she whispered, "can you come to my house today?" "Is your mother okay with that?" I asked. "She's mad," Lucia said, "but Daddy says you can come." I brought over a paper bag with 3 sandwiches and a wooden train set with the tape finely cut. Isabella didn't meet my eyes. Sergio was not there, and the house felt bigger without his shadow. Michael took me aside in the kitchen. "I told them they have to stop coming over for a while," he said. "I told Isabella I can't be married to everyone." "That was a sentence you should have learned in college," I said. He winced. "I know." We ate at the kitchen island like a normal family. Lucia drove the train around the cutting board while I fixed the loose cabinet hinge that had been squeaking for 6 months. January 2nd, at 7 a.m., Michael was on my porch with a duffel bag and eyes that looked like mine when Elena died. "She left," he said. "I'm sorry," I said. "She says I humiliated her," he said. "She says I chose you over her." "You chose yourself," I said. "That's different." He looked at the floor. "I don't know how to do this." "You start with coffee," I said, "and you make a list." We drank from the chipped mugs Elena wouldn't let me throw away. Michael held his like it could anchor him to the world. "What list?" he asked. "People who get to have opinions," I said. "Down to 5. Everyone else gets weather updates and pictures of the dog." He smiled without humor. "We don't have a dog." "You will," I said. By mid-morning, Isabella had posted something brittle on whatever platform people use to make their pain look like victory. Pilar called 3 times to inform me of the legal storm on my horizon. Sergio sent a message with words like defamation and bad faith and elder abuse, which made me laugh hard enough to scare a crow off the fence. Karina handled the noise. "Let them file," she said. "Door A is a contract. They signed it. They were represented. My favorite kind of quiet is the kind a judge orders." The counseling sessions began the next week. Michael went alone to the first. He called me after. "She asked me when I first decided Isabella was smarter than me," he said. "What did you say?" "When she walked into the room," he said and sighed. "I made a lot of decisions like that." "Make different ones," I said. He started showing up at my place on Sundays. We changed the oil in my truck and cleared the gutters and fixed the cabinet hinge again because it squeaked when the weather changed. We didn't talk about Christmas. We didn't talk about Sergio. We talked about work and how to boil potatoes without turning them to paste and whether Lucia should play soccer in the spring even though Isabella said it would interfere with Mandarin. On the 15th, the first payment to North Cedar came in. Miguel texted a celebration emoji. I made a note in the ledger and moved on with my day. On the 20th, Isabella moved into her parents' guest house. Pilar posted photos of a fresh start that looked like a catalog had thrown Juan up on a couch. Sergio tagged a steakhouse where the cheapest cut cost more than my first car. Michael didn't look. He blocked them for 30 days so he could hear himself think. He brought Lucia over the next weekend. We built the train around the legs of the coffee table. She laughed when it rattled across a joint and jumped the track. Trains do that, I told her. Tracks settle, you put them back. She nodded solemnly as if I'd told her the secret to life, and maybe I had. By February, the house felt different even when I wasn't there. Michael texted me pictures of the cabinet doors rehung straight and the ottoman reclaimed by his feet and the KitchenAid boxed and sent to consignment. He took down the silk curtains that always looked angry and put up cotton ones Elena would have chosen. He started leaving the door open when he cooked so the house would smell like food instead of perfume. The Alvarezes sputtered for a while. Sergio threatened to refinance and buy me out until a banker told him in banker Latin that the transfer clause had handcuffed him to me for several months unless he wanted to litigate and lose. He blustered about family and respect until even Pilar grew tired of the taste of his words. Isabella called on a Wednesday at 9 p.m. I've scheduled the counseling, she said, as if I were the guidance counselor and she the child. I don't see the point, but I'll go. Good, I said. Go. We're not getting back together, she said. That's not what the counseling is for, I said. It's for learning how not to turn every choice into a war. She hung up, but she went. She sat in a chair and said nothing for 40 minutes while Michael tried to explain the shape of his spine. By the third session, she cried. By the fifth, she admitted that Sergio's voice lived in her head like a song she couldn't turn off. I didn't ask for updates. I saw them anyway in the way Michael started to stand taller, in the way Lucia stopped flinching when a phone buzzed, in the way the house stayed quiet after 8 p.m. In March, Michael and I walked the property line behind his fence and talked about the grapevines Elena had always wanted to plant. In April, we put them in the ground. In May, he sent me a picture of green leaves the color of hope. You going to put me back on the Christmas rotation? I asked one Sunday in June when the heat made the road hum and the kitchen smelled like iced tea. Michael stirred sugar into his glass. I was thinking you could host, he said. I raised an eyebrow. Traditions, he said, smiling, the first real smile I'd seen in months. The kind that build people. We didn't talk about the mortgage again until July, when he asked the question I knew would come. Dad, will you ever sell the note? Maybe, I said. Maybe I'll forgive it. He looked at me like I'd just hit him. Why? Because Elena would have, I said. Because you did the work. In August, he sent the 6th on-time payment. In September, I paid for Lucia's soccer cleats and told her it was a loan with terms, 3 goals and 1 assist by Halloween. She nodded gravely and then scored 2 goals in her first game and looked over at me like she was checking a box on a form. In October, Pilar called to invite me to Sergio's birthday dinner. She said it would be an opportunity to mend fences. I told her I had fences that didn't need mending and a dog that needed walking. I'd adopted a mutt from the shelter that looked like every dog I'd ever wanted put together, and I named him Cedar because he didn't mind. In November, the house on Maple, where the title office sat closed for a week because Denise got married. She sent me a thank you note for the mixer I bought her out of pettiness. It felt good to watch that pettiness turn into a cake at someone else's table. December came again. The grapes slept. Elena's dove hung on my tree with the Sharpie names faded to silver shadows. Michael and Lucia arrived with a casserole and the kind of quiet you carry when you've survived your own life. We ate, we laughed. We told one story about Elena and one about the year the tree fell, and 3 about Cedar stealing the turkey neck before I could get it into the stock pot. After dessert, Michael cleared his throat. "I have something," he said. He pulled a paper from his pocket and unfolded it like it might fly away. It was a letter to Lucia. He read it aloud. "I once forgot who loved me, and I let other people tell me who I was. I'm learning how to remember. Your grandpa taught me that gratitude is not a feeling, it's an action. This is me acting." He slid another paper to me. It was a cashier's check for the tax escrow I'd advanced last year. He insisted I take it. I insisted we split it. In the end, we argued until we were both laughing, and that felt like a kind of repair Elena would have approved of. "Dad," he said when the dishes were done, and Lucia was asleep on the couch with Cedar standing guard, "what would it take for you to forgive the rest?" "3 things," I said. "You keep doing the work. You keep Sergio out of your house. And you invite me to Christmas because you want me there, not because I own your note." He reached across the table and gripped my hand like a drowning man holding a dock. "Deal," he said. On December 30th, I signed a satisfaction mortgage for the second. Karina recorded it that afternoon. The county posted it the next morning. The first, the one sitting at North Cedar, stayed where it was with a sticky note Dave added, "Consider satisfaction after Easter if progress continues." On New Year's Eve, Isabella texted a picture of Lucia opening a gift in the guest house. "Thank you for the books," she wrote. "We're working on using our words." "Good," I wrote back. "Use them to build." At midnight, fireworks stitched the winter sky together and then let it come apart. Cedar barked bravely again. I stood on my porch and thought about the way a ledger works. Add, subtract, balance. Pencils don't shout. They remember. By New Year's, Michael's mortgage was neither a weapon nor a chain. It was a thing on paper that we had bent toward something useful. The debt that had been my quiet act of love, then my loud boundary, was now a bridge we walked across without shaking. The house no longer carried Sergio's cologne. The kitchen smelled like food. The cabinet hinge finally stopped squeaking when the weather turned cold and stayed that way. I slept for the first time in 2 winters. In the morning, Lucia called to ask if she could come over to build the train around Cedar's bed. "He won't mind," she said. "Trains jump the track," I told her. "Dogs don't." She giggled. "See you soon." When I hung up, I looked at the ledger taped inside my cabinet door. 4 rules on 1 page. I added a 5th with Elena's pen. Win something worth living with. I put the pen down and set the turkey to thaw. Traditions, I decided, belong to the people who made them with their hands, not the people who bragged about them in rooms they didn't pay for. Next Christmas, we'd fill the house with noise and train tracks and a dog howling at the wrong time, and nobody would measure respect by a guest list or a table setting. We'd measure it by how it felt to sit in a room where every person had earned their chair. And if Sergio ever knocked, well, there's always the porch.
My grandfather told me this story himself, and every word was true. If you enjoyed it, subscribe. More stories are coming.